Hello, hello.
Hello. So good afternoon, Ms. Sorcha. Thank you for joining us. The last time we had you with us at a WFA session, it was, I'm going to say 2018 maybe. It was one of our CMO meetings, and we were talking about client agency relationships. And the WFA, we're very much a client association. We focus on that. But, one thing we do care a lot about is agency relationships, because it's such a critical partnership to success. Would love to get your thoughts, and this session is really all about that. Tell us first of all, what the agency business has been like, what it's been like for agencies in COVID, coming out of COVID.
Well, a question that we've been talking about all year. It has been life-giving to be part of a team of people who are thinking about this stuff all the time.
Okay.
It has been quite challenging, not in the context of work or finance or anything like that, more challenging to lead. I feel like agencies are tasked with leading and knowing and certainty. And in a world where there's lots of uncertainty, having clarity around your thinking process, I think is hard for people. And, agency is pure collaboration. It is total collaboration. And not being able to have the closeness of being together all the time, or just, being playful around things because we're all in the same space, that does make it a lot harder to do what we do well. Or it means you have to be very intentional about making sure that we do what we do well, rather than the kind of organic nature of letting it happen.
And that's just looking at life on the agency side of things. So, all the things you're talking about, the things that really make agencies, that's challenged and that's kind of disrupted.
I think it's the kind of challenge that every organization that's made of people and people's brains and capabilities has faced this year. I think it's made harder when your fuel or your lifeblood is culture and inspiration. And culture and inspiration is a little bit turned off the taps. So that, I would say more than anything, the biggest challenge for us has been helping people to remain inspired and focused and feeling. And we have like a internal phrase that, I probably shouldn't say this, but in the world of creativity and inspiration, advertising's a puddle. Design, art, music is a lake, and life is the sea.
Fantastic.
And if you can't be out experiencing life in all its forms, then your inspiration source becomes smaller and smaller. So being able to point to, push, open up things for people to kind of be inspired by has been really, central to what we've been doing for the year.
I love that you're not talking about the business per se, but you're talking about, it's almost like a funnel. How wide can you go to bring the creativity in and then distill that? How do you see that impacting, the work, or how do you see that impacting client agency relationships? You're talking about getting stuck behind screens, getting stuck in homes, getting stuck in countries. How does that spill over, I guess?
It's a really good question, and it's probably not one there's a really clear answer on. I feel like there's been a lot more client, agency, everybody vulnerability this year. I feel, to your point about getting stuck in countries or having, childcare needs, etc., just that everyone's experiencing that together. There's been a lot more, human to human vulnerability. And I think what it's made us do is ask, what do you need to live a creative life? And living a creative life, it's actually quite funny when you said, aside from the business, because we're in a relatively fortunate position in that I rarely think of the business. The business takes care of itself.
That's great.
We work with our clients and we work on amazing projects and some tough projects and some day-to-day projects, but actually the business really runs itself. And so the questions we ask ourselves all the time are about creativity and how how to find it, how to bottle it, how to feed it, how to restore it, and how to ask or engage our clients in that process. And I do feel this vulnerability has meant that everyone is asking themselves, do I need to be in another country for a few months to be able to feel this? Do I need to be able to see my family? Can I work from very far away? Can I be here? Like lots of these things that would feel too much to ask for in the past, I think now are just, if you need it, you need it.
No, and when you said that, you know, you need to feed creativity, restore creativity, find creativity, I feel like if I replace creativity with people, you know, and you hear about the talent crunch or shortage of people, because people really are the heart of the business, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a talent crunch because I think agencies focus a lot on the business, and the business model's rubbish. It's the worst business model ever. So if your stress is on the business model, then you're going to have to create a lot of conditions that are not really engineered for creativity, and actually creative people might not want to work 12 months of the year, might not want to be in an office all the time, might not want to feel the way that you want them to feel in order to, you know, drench their brains.
I mean, you can't turn it on like a switch, you know, and it's not there all the time. And I love that we have to restore it and feed it and find it. We were talking earlier today with Pratik Thakkar. He's the global head of creative and strategy at Coca-Cola. And he was talking about the need to push reform, push creativity, but at the same time, taking care of the people, you know, across the team, both agency, client side, the one team. And it really makes you think about the potential for brands, for advertisers to lead the change. You know, how much of this is something for the agency to think about? How much of this is something brands can support?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be a conversation, right? It can be clients pick a couple of agencies and say, hey, we would love to engage. What's the best way to do it? We have something of what we call a door policy, which is almost like, you know, this space, these people that we have are quite sacred and we want to protect them. And so this is the way we'd love to partner with you, and that's important to us. So we kind of put that up very early on in a conversation. And if those aren't components that someone feels excited to be a part of, then we just know it's not the right kind of dynamic to create. Don't send pitches in December. Just these kind of normal, very human things that make complete sense if you just think them through. I think, you know, these are conversations that clients and agencies can powerfully have together.
I mean, and you touched upon them. We're starting to see for the first time agencies kind of say, you know what, I'm going to bow out of that pitch and I'm going to say no, you know. And you also talked about conditions changing where creative people don't do 9 to 5s, or they might need to take a month off. How are these changes going to impact the way we work in the future? You know, how do you see this changing the way we work?
I think really significantly and positively, and probably quite quickly. We've spoken about this before, but you know, we say no a lot and we say yes very infrequently. I know this year, speaking to other leaders, they've done the same. I think there's at least in the conversations I've had, there's a finite understanding of how best and most interestingly to use our talents to do good and interesting things, and how a certain number of clients, a certain type of clients is kind of enough. And, you know, like I said, our business model across the board is rubbish. So you just add more work and just add more people. And these aren't the kinds of, you know, growth at a top line level is not a powerful enough motivator for us to bring great people into the industry. So I do feel we're kind of reaching saturation in a sense.
Okay, so it's not enough to say, here, we're going to chuck a whole lot of money at you, and it's great money, go for it. What, in your opinion, will it take to be a client of choice? To be
Love that phrase.
the brand that, the agency's thinking about after 6 p.m., the brand you're thinking about on the weekend, when you're hanging out with your family. What will it take to be a client of choice?
I love that phrase. I'm going to start using client of choice. That's great. Hey, it's very, very human things. Are you inspired by your brand? Do you passionately want to do something with it that is interesting? Are you clear on what you're looking for from the marketing mix? There's a whole lot of complexity, asking the wrong questions or wrong requirements of the wrong channels, etc. I think clarity, or if there isn't clarity, opening the question to say, we don't have clarity on this, we'd really like to work it through together. I always ask clients if they'll think with us, that be part of that process.
Okay.
Because they have expertise and we have expertise. And allow that expertise to come together in order to work something through. I also feel like we've lost quite a lot of gut feeling, and in this world of remote shooting, remote everything, everything is nth degree, check, versus this feels good, this gives me the emotions. Do you know what I mean? We've got
for sure.
a bit structured and sensible. So I feel like clients that say, gut feeling, this is how, we go with this, I think that's really powerful.
Or maybe sometimes just leave enough room for the magic to happen, leave enough space.
Trust, right?
Yeah.
If you've hired someone for a reason, we always say, call the plumber. When the plumber comes around, you don't tell them how to fix the pipes, right?
Exactly. No, that makes sense. We've also been talking today about, the impact of ESG issues on marketing. And the role marketing can play when it comes to DEI, the role that marketing can play when it comes to sustainability, data. I know you're passionate about that. What is the role of the agency, in that conversation when it comes to thinking about the brand's role, helping to craft? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, essential on both parts. Firstly, I think representation is obviously absolutely the role of client and agency. If we don't create visual role models and representations of all aspects of society, then we are very bad at our jobs and don't deserve them. Like that, I think that's, and yeah, it's very, very important. I think that understanding the cultural objective that brands play.
What cultural objective?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know the previous conversation was talking about being customer obsessed. I think that customers live in a world and an ecosystem, and culture and cultural icons have an unparalleled level of influence in this world, more than they probably should.
Yes.
And therefore their ability to create acceptance or change or impact in areas of importance is huge. And being able to understand, do we have a cultural role to play? And if so, can we do it well? I think, purpose is something that's talked about a lot, and sometimes said too much with too little meaning, and genuinely thinking about businesses and organizations as having a genuine purpose that doesn't feel glib or designed, but it feels real and momentous is important.
But I feel like to that point, that's where the agency partner plays such a critical role in being able to sometimes be that first line of defense and say, yeah, no, this is purpose washing, this doesn't make sense, or let's sense check the work that goes out and what you're saying.
Definitely.
For that authenticity.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think the really important thing there is that there is a client side that is willing to listen. And often we find there is, and then sometimes we find that listener is a bit overruled. So, again, there's a conversation, and one of our door policy rules is like, if you have a say, you must be around the table. So Mother and TSLA set up around a table, everything we do around the table. We have lots of big lunch tables everywhere because we really want the table to represent. I mean, we call our board the table, having a seat at the table. And it's something that 85% of the time it works, and about 15% of the time it doesn't, whereby anyone who has a deciding or a casting vote is around the table. And I think the biggest heartbreak can happen when everyone around the table thinks something, does something, is behind something, client, agency, media partners, etc., and maybe a decision comes from elsewhere.
Yikes. I mean, can that concept work then? Could we create in our partnerships that concept that there's got to be a client agency table? Regardless, these are the votes, this is what's going to count. Could that work moving ahead?
Yes.
Well, then that's a good start. Speaking of moving ahead, though, where we are coming out of COVID, where everyone's traveling again, like you mentioned, it's back out to the real world to get inspiration.
Yeah.
What do you think we might or might not do as we move into a new norm? So let's not just go back to the way things were for the sake of it, but what are you looking forward to doing? I mean, clearly face-to-face being out there, but what are you looking forward to doing more of? And what do you think you'd like to see less of?
Really looking forward to going on holiday and talking to strangers. Meeting people, new people, just feeling cold air on your face. I know those things sound silly.
No, they're
but
real.
I think that they are really essential for everybody, clients, agencies, everybody in the world. And I do feel like intentionality. We talked about, being intentional about the spaces that we facilitate. That continuing is going to be really, really important. And that might mean keeping some things that we've inherited from this time. It might mean losing some things. It might mean going back to having people in the office a few days a week, so we definitely know we can be together. I think that being able to socialize in big groups and with loud music is also going to be really, really, like, those kind of sensory things I think are essential for people, and I really hope we can have those again in the future.
I love that. I think the one thing that's come out for me through all of this, just chatting to you, is the value and the emphasis and care with which you talk about creativity, the creative process, truly handled with care and just regarded. I mean, that to me feels like the heart of everything you guys do, and that's the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference, you think?
Well, obviously we're called Mother. Our business team are called mothers in that they look after all of our work like it's their own child. And I do think being in that environment that's very family, emotion, people-centric, with a lot of good conflict.
Yes, like
right?
a good family.
Like a good family actually is incredibly creatively nourishing. And I think it allows us at least to bring our clients into that family if they want that, and it's not right for every organization, it's not right for every business, but it can be incredibly powerful. Yeah.
No, for sure. It's a measured, thoughtful, holistic approach to the business of creativity. And as a last thought then, if there was one piece of advice you have to brands to say, you know what, just doing this one thing is going to really supercharge the relationship with your agency partners, what would that one thing be? What's that piece of advice?
What a question. That's hard.
And it might be two pieces of advice combined into one.
I mean, emotionally, I think just like honesty around, if this is like a thing that has to be done because it's a thing that has to be done, we can say that. And if it's a thing that needs support to kind of grow and enable and enlarge, actually, Now I'm thinking about it. I think the one thing that is amazing is when clients and agencies can say, here's all the things that we need to do to transform this brand. I'll take these things, you take these things.
Great.
Like a bit of, because then sometimes I find that clients feel there's things they need to do that we can do, and we feel there's things that we need to do that they can do. And when there's a lack of clarity and a lack of, we start managing stakeholders and these things that just could really easily be divided and conquered, and that kind of unity, the work that we do is not easy, and it's not easy for organizations to accept and adopt and buy into. So being able to be really clear about all the things and then who's going to do all the things and how they're going to work together, I think would be really, really cool.
No, I love it. I can see this working out in real life. I can see this in a boardroom, everyone coming together. You've got your Post-its and saying, I'm going to put my Post-its here.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my Post-its there. No, I'm going to take this and put it back here because this is me.
Yeah.
And then everyone just goes for your life, gets good work done. And at the end of the day, we come together, have a drink at the bar, and everything's good like it was.
Exactly.
In the past.
Those days.
No, looking forward to that, Ms. Sorcha. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.